What's going on, guys? Exotic Grunt Gaming here, and today I'm going to be bringing you a video on my recommendation for how to set up Srendarr and make Srendarr work for you and not you have to work for Srendarr. Any of you that don't know, Srendarr is an add-on that tracks dots that you put down on the ground, debuffs, buffs. It pretty much tracks everything in the game, and it gives a little bar on your screen as a countdown, and you can set it up to assist you in determining how much longer you have on a dot before you need to reapply it. This is especially useful for this patch because I've been starting to notice that a lot of builds now are utilizing dynamic rotations, and static rotations are a little bit more difficult to pump out that damage as they used to be. So in the more further end game content, it's better to apply your dots on cooldown as opposed to having a static rotation where you just apply everything on your back bar and then switch to the front bar and do your spammables. So this video is to help newer players to the game, and unfortunately PC, just because console players unfortunately do not have access to add-ons, so they can't utilize Srendarr. But this is just what I use and how I set it up to make it look good. As somebody had requested it in one of my other videos about how to set it up to make it work and be as smooth as I had it. So what you want to do is you want to go install it. I recommend using Minion. It helps keep all your add-ons up to date automatically, and you don't have to reinstall them and whatnot. It's a very clean way of using it. If you prefer to do it on your own and do it manually, you can do that as well from ESO UI. So once it's installed, you're going to go into Settings and then Add-ons and scroll down to Srendarr. And it's in here that you have a bunch of different options. Now, at first, it might seem kind of confusing, and it can be, but I'll kind of walk you through the tutorial of how to set it up, at least to the way I set it up to my liking. So you want to start in general, and you want to go into unlock. And what this does is it unlocks all of the different positioning for the display groups. And these display groups are, you can designate certain like debuffs and whatnot to go into these display windows. So what I recommend doing, what I prefer, is having group 3 and 4 be at the bottom of your screen. So what you want to do is you want to click here, click unlock, and then you can click this, the number, and drag it. This one was located up in this corner, and this one was up in this corner when it started. So what I did was I just grabbed 4, brought it down here, grabbed 3, brought it down here, and you can exit this menu. So like I'll zoom all the way out, and I'll make sure it's kind of center on myself. So you can press enter or go into the cursor menu. Unfortunately, you have to do it after every time. And you just set it up kind of center on you. You can go back into that, and then you can click lock, and it will lock all those in place. Now, most people, and I know myself when I first started using it, got kind of turned off because they just turned it on, they thought it would work, and then because other people use it and they say, oh, use this Srendarr add-on, and they start using it, and then all of a sudden you've got like a shit ton of buffs on your screen everywhere, and it's confusing and it's distracting, especially from the fight. So as you'll see, I have specific abilities slotted here that I watch and monitor. It depends for different classes. You do Srendarr on each character that you have, specifically for them. But as you can see, I only have certain abilities being tracked in Srendarr. And the way that you set them up like that is you go into aura control display groups. Now, some people will just have these displayed everywhere. I don't necessarily recommend that, just because unless you're doing your debuffs because you want to track a debuff that you put out. But if you have all these on the different display windows, you'll see everything from other people and what they're doing and whatnot. So it's very confusing, and you don't have as much control over determining which abilities you want tracked. You may not want all abilities tracked because it might be distracting or confusing. So what you can do is, and what I personally recommend, is turning them all off, except for I have my debuffs on. And once you have that done, you just scroll down and you click Do Not Display. Then you go over to Filters. So what I do here is I will go to Prominent Buff and AoE Assignments window. So you have Aura Whitelist 1 and Aura Whitelist 2. I select window 3 and then type the ability I want selected in here. So, for instance, Deadly Cloak. Click Enter. You'll see in your window. Since I already have it in here, it's not going to pop up. But what will happen is then it will appear there. Now, you have to be careful because you may have spelt it wrong. And I'm not sure if you can do it without using caps on certain words, but I would just recommend typing it out exactly what it says in your tooltip, what the ability is called, Deadly Cloak. You don't have to do 4 or anything. You don't need to do the rank, just the ability name. And so you go through and you add in each one that you want. And you can select for each window. I just do it here because it's easier for me to see, like, oh, 4th window, I'll type it here, but you can just go here and then do 4 and then type in what you want. But I just set it up 3 and 4. But you can also add other stuff, and you can do the example auras. I have the cast bar activated, so I know when you do a channeled ability, that's where it will be displayed down there, so you'll know how long your character is doing their channeled skill for. You can also do prominent debuff assignments. So this is things like the Rending Slashes Bleed. I haven't actually tried this yet, but let's see if this works. Rending Slashes. Is it Rending Slash? So you have to, the problem is you have to make sure you get the exact name. So it's Rending Slashes and then Bleed. And that's what we'll track. Because if you just do Rending Slashes, it won't track because it does have an initial attack. Rending Slashes, Bleed. And we're doing that in window, let's do it in window 4. So let's see how this works. And you'll see Rending Slashes Bleed pops up now in the right-hand side of the window. So to show you in quick time kind of how this would play out, and see, now I know when to reapply things. And you can just go off of that. Depends on different classes too, and what works best for their rotation. But that's kind of what I recommend doing for Srendarr because it makes it much more clean and organized. It's a lot easier to see your abilities and the cooldowns. You can also edit the size of the icons. I haven't really messed with that because I don't personally prefer it. And you can set profiles as well. But Aura Display, so this is where you determine how big the window is. So I click on window number 3, window transparency, window scale, the style. Okay, there's so many options here. You can change the way that they sort. So like remaining time ascending. So like the ability with the most time left will always be at the top. So what I do is I always look for the bottommost skill to then realize when I need to reapply that ability. Because that's the one that's running out soonest. So I just look at typically the bottom 2 from both columns. And that's pretty much it. Really short video, but this is just to give some advice and some tips on how to set up Srendarr for your liking and how to make it more user-friendly for you, because I know I had a difficult time figuring out myself. And I know there are other videos out there probably that talk about setting it up, but this is just a little refresher, reminder, and an up-to-date one for anybody that's interested in trying out Srendarr. Other than that, thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.